Joseph's life starts in Genesis chapter 30, and we read of him in chapter 33 and 35, and we read about his betrayal in Genesis chapter 37, and his life in Egypt in chapters 39 to 50. So Joseph is Jacob's 11th son and his favourite, and he's the firstborn of Rachel, the wife that he loved. Rachel had to wait a long time before she had Joseph. And Joseph is given a prophetic dream that his brothers will bow down to him. And his brothers become jealous and sell him to the Ishmaelites at age 17. In this picture here, it shows Joseph being a little bit younger, but he's actually 17 years old when he was sold by Judah and the brothers to the Ishmaelites. Here they are with their camels. Ishmael, they are the sons of Abraham, whereas the Israelites are the sons of Jacob. Now Joseph, when he goes down to Egypt, he's tempted and tried in Egypt where he is sold. The man that he's sold to, his wife, gets her eyes on him and she wants him to sleep with her, but he runs away and she claims that he tried to rape her, and so he's put in prison. So not only is he betrayed by his brothers, but he has a very hard time as a slave in Egypt. But when he goes to prison, he interprets some dreams. Later on, a few years later actually, Pharaoh is told about this interpreter of dreams because he also has had a dream that he wants interpreted. And Joseph interprets it and rescues all of Egypt, really, from a dire famine by preparing beforehand granaries and storing up grain. And it's during this famine that his brothers come down to Egypt, and finally Jacob as well. Here he is there, and that's Joseph in the picture. And Joseph forgives his brothers and shows his worthiness to actually have the right of firstborn. So it's one thing to be called to be a firstborn, but it's another thing to be worthy of that title, and Joseph shows his worthiness. And Joseph rises to second under Pharaoh himself, and it's through Joseph that the Israelites, or his brothers and his father, come down to Egypt, and there they stay, and they live there for quite a few hundred years. And Jacob gives Joseph some amazing prophecies or blessings for him and for his children, and we'll read about that now. Well, Jacob, now in Egypt with his 12 sons, blesses all the tribes, or all his sons, in Genesis chapter 49. And he has a special blessing for Joseph as well. And he says, Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. So two things here. Joseph is going to be fruitful with children, and he's going to extend himself and run over a wall, and he's going to be persecuted. His descendants are going to be persecuted, and sorely grieved him and hated him. And in verse 24, but his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. So all of this is like all of this trouble for Joseph's descendants is like resistance training and weightlifting. It makes you strong, and so Joseph's descendants are made strong. Even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. So here we have this blessings, very, very high and deep and lofty blessings spiritual blessings in the heavenly places, if you like, and of the breasts and of the womb. So here we have again the idea of many descendants. In verse 26, the blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. And by the way, Joseph is like the priest of the family in a way, even though Levi received the priesthood later on. Joseph is really the one that is the Nazir priest. We have the Nazirite vow, and through that someone can actually do many of the things a priest can without actually being from the line of Levi. And the word Nazirite comes from the word Nazir, which means to be separate. And indeed, that's what Joseph was. He was separate from his brothers. He was separate from his brethren, as it says here. He was a Nazir priest. And the crown that the priest would wear is called a Nazir. So there are many aspects of priesthood in Joseph, a higher priesthood than Levi. Unfortunately, his descendants have not lived up in many ways to that high calling. But perhaps the overcomers throughout the church age that are descended from Joseph have. Now in 1 Chronicles chapter 5 verses 1 and 2 we read, Now the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, for he was the firstborn, but forasmuch as he defiled his father's bed, his birthright was given unto the sons of Joseph, the son of Israel, and the genealogy is not to be reckoned after the birthright. So what it's saying here is, because of Reuben's transgression, which we read of in Genesis, he basically had sex with one of Jacob's concubines. Reuben lost the right of firstborn, and so the firstborn right went from the firstborn of the first wife, Leah, and her son Reuben, from him to the firstborn of the second wife, Rachel, which was Joseph. So that's why Joseph had his dream of the sun, moon, and stars bowing down to him, and so forth, because Yahweh was giving him the right of firstborn. So he wasn't the firstborn, he was the second firstborn of the second wife, if you like. But he received the blessing because of the unworthiness of Reuben for that honour. And in verse 2 we read, For Judah prevailed above his brethren, and of him the chief is the chief ruler, but the birthright is Joseph's. So what Joseph's descendants receive is the blessing of many descendants, among other things. And so it's interesting, in the New Testament, we read in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 22 and 23, But ye are come unto Mount Zion, and unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly and church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect. So the church these last 2,000 years, and when I'm using the word church, I don't mean all of Christendom, but those that genuinely know Yeshua as the Messiah. And to them, they are part of this ecclesia, this church, this kahila of the firstborn, written in heaven. So amongst those, there will be also many of the sons of Joseph, and not too many Jews, because not too many Jews believe in the Messiah and in Yeshua as the Messiah. So the sons of Joseph and the Gentiles have been getting in ahead of the Jews, but there will come a time when the Jews will be slotted back into the covenant, and there will be a time when Judah is saved according to the prophets. So that means there's a great deal of time when Judah is not saved. So Joseph has received the blessing of the firstborn,